Hi. In my last video, I was talking about when I was in the coma, and the book Touch and Go covers that period, mainly from my wife's perspective. In the chapter that covers that, virtually all of it, is taken from Glenn's diary of the time. Now, when she wrote that diary, I'm of course in a coma, I'm out of it. However, when I was coming out of the coma, and I don't know how long this was for, I can only assume that it was from when they started to reduce the drugs, the drugs that induce a coma. When they started to do that, when they started to bring me out of the coma, I started to live in dream worlds. Now, this is how I wrote it in the book, that I assumed that from the 17th of February, when they started to reduce the medications, that's when I started to respond. Now, that book has been read and commented on before it went to print by Dr. David Palmer, who is a consultant anaesthetist who wrote the foreword to the book. So because of that, I believe that what I said was an accurate interpretation. Now, those worlds that I lived in, for people that have already read the book, people have got in touch with me and told me what it's been like for them or relatives when they've been coming out of a coma. Doesn't have to have been a coma associated with COVID, but what it was like. And I want to describe some of that now, because I lived in these worlds that were so real to me, so real that they became memories. They became memories that took me a long time after regaining consciousness to understand were not memories. Those memories took up to 6 months of my life, going back to the summer of 2020. It's not that we remember everything from the previous summer or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. These memories totally replaced my memory. Now, they began. The first one that I can consciously remember, and as I say, they were vivid when I came out of the coma, and I was determined that I was going to say something about them to people. The first one, I was trapped. I was trapped in what was like a swimming bath, and I was having to lean against the edge of the swimming bath. You know, like you do when you swim a length or two, and you do that over the back of the baths, and you take a rest, have a breather. Well, I wasn't having a breather. I'm there, I'm floating, and I'm working something of a treadmill that's in this pool, this swimming pool type place. This treadmill was massive, and I had to work, and there was someone next to me doing it with me, and we had to paddle this like a huge water mill. Think about this. And we had to paddle this, and what we were paddling upon were these massive boxes that had a wooden top and canvas sides and bottom, and behind that you could see onto the streets, and you could see people walking by on the streets. Now, tried to shout to them, but no one could hear. No one listened. Everyone ignored us as they walked by on that street. And as they walked by on that street, we were desperate. And every now and again, the boxes would empty, and we found out what the cargo of it was. Turned out that we were in the basement of a hotel. The cargo of those boxes was the sewage from the hotel rooms, and the sewage was released into the pool, and the pool was flushed. And we, me and whoever it was that was next to me, were dragged down into this vortex. And in a sense, we were quite relieved, because the vortex flushed away all the filth and was replaced by clean water. So we got something of a bath in that. That was the first of those worlds that I remember. I was protesting as best as I could. I was shouting, I was doing whatever I could, but I'm trapped. And this is something that's quite funny, really, because how we adapt to our situations. This was normal. To me, at that point in my life, this was normal. I don't know how long it went on for, but there was no history at all in my life preceding that. Another dream world that I was in, I was having to lie down on a shiny, flat surface and pretend that I was dead. I had to pretend that I was dead, that is, not even show that I was breathing, when people came along to view what a dead person looked like. In this world, I believe sincerely that if I pretended to be dead long enough and well enough, I would be released from this lying flat, lying prone, face down on this shiny surface. I would be released to something better. What that was going to be, I don't know. But when there was no one there to watch me, I could look round the room that I was in. And in this room were a number of people, a lot of people in white coats, like you imagine doctors in the old days anyway. And they were in white coats, scientist type people, taking notes, and there were people with clipboards going up to the people who were clearly in charge with data, and I understood this was a data processing plan. Now, in this, it was my job then to get away from what I was doing, and somehow I got to speak to the people that were in charge, and I was released from my prone captivity, my need to lie down. Interestingly, I didn't just get up, I accepted that I had to lie down. Again, there was no history to me, there was no person that I was, I didn't know who I was or anything. I didn't know my name, and that comes up later again more than once. But I didn't know anything about me. But I got myself released from this particular situation by some sort of negotiations with the people in charge, and I was given a new job, playing dead. In this job, I played dead in a car crash, and I was there in this car crash to have photographs taken and show people what a mess reckless driving would create. And the car that I was in was a Mercedes 4x4. What type? I have no idea. Just a big flashy Merc that was mangled, and I was in that, mangled myself. And I wanted to get away from that. But I was told by the daughter of the scientist that ran the place, and she was a scientist too. I was told that for me to be able to be released, I would have to have a place to go, and I would have to have the finance to pay my debt. My debt was a debt that I'd incurred by, apparently, according to this young scientist, apparently I had killed a family in a car crash. And as a punishment for doing that, they'd taken away my identity, my history, my personality, everything. They'd taken it all away from me. That explained why I didn't know who I was. That explained why I knew nothing about my history had been taken away from me. Punishment for something that I did that I couldn't remember. In a funny way, although I had a strong suspicion that this wasn't a lawful punishment, I accepted it. But how could I get out? I needed someone who would take care of me when I got home, and I needed to pay them thousands and thousands of pounds for this privilege. Somehow I paid them on credit cards, whatever. I paid what was needed to get out, and I was given a video which involved talking to Glenn, my wife, Kieran, Liam, my sons. And in this video there was an iPad in front of me. Glenn was on one side, Kieran and Liam were on the other, in one above the other. And they would talk to me, but I couldn't talk back. All I could do was wave and mouth, "I love you." And they would wave back and smile, but I didn't trust it, because I worked out in my head that I was being set up. I worked it out that I was being set up. I didn't trust the video, and once I decided I didn't trust the video, it spun off into space away from me. And the scientist that was the main scientist's daughter told me that my wife Glenn had said she didn't want me to come home, didn't want anything to do with me. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about dream worlds in the next video that I make. Meanwhile, have a brilliant Christmas. Hope to make a video next week in between Christmas and New Year's, and if not, have a fantastic New Year, and I'll see you in 2022. Bye bye.